Welcome, beautiful soul. It's time to remember who we are. You were born for this moment, this breath. Nature teaches us and reminds us that whatever it is that we are searching for, that whatever our hearts and souls are longing for, we must know our unlimited power and worth. It's all already within us. So thank you for saying yes to this moment. Thank you for saying yes to this journey. And most of all, thank you for saying yes to yourself. Welcome, beautiful soul. Welcome, beautiful soul. I am so grateful that you have carved out time and space to be with us today. As you can see, I do have a guest with me, and I am so excited for you to hear the wisdom, the truth, and the flow of the woman who is going to be joining me and is joining me right here today. Our topic today is one that I feel is so critical and important for us. It's understanding what life teaches us and understanding how to find our truth, our voice, and our power on this journey. Now, I'm going to introduce her, and then you know what we do? We're going to together do the breath because she's used to it. I hope you all get used to it because breath just centers us. But joining me today is Amma Naomi, and I want you all to know that she is someone so special in my life. She's someone that I view as a friend, a sister, a mother. Like, she is literally all things. And that name, Amma Naomi, what does that mean? That's a consecrated name. That's just fancy for saying that she is also a bishop. And Amma is an endearing term that we use to say, and it means like mother. It's like that maternal wisdom we're calling upon when I call her Amma Naomi. Now, that's her title I put on here because that's how I connect with her. She answers to Cheryl, to Naomi. She's not pretentious, and that's what I love about her. It's so refreshing to have someone who does not identify with their title alone. And she walks in the fullness of it. So if we ever get to hear her talk, and if she ever visits a place where you get to hear her speak, just put your seatbelt on because she always brings such profound truth. Today, though, this is an intimate discussion. So I want to welcome you, Cheryl, Amma Naomi, for being here today. Thank you for making time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Now, I need to preface with you all how special it is that she's here in this moment. Some of you know that Los Angeles is dealing with some tremendous destruction of fires right now. In fact, someone that we're very close to is firsthand going through what does it mean to be without your physical home. And so we are surrounding and supporting her, and it's real. So she is pulled over on the side of the road and is safe right now and is talking with us. But that is the backdrop. And I'm sure that's going to play into, as we talk about this journey and what life is teaching us. So before I go any further, let's all just take a holy break, a nice break, and breathe. And if you're able to safely close your eyes, I invite you to close your eyes with me right now. And all we're doing right now is breathing, noticing the inhale and the exhale. And breath is that beautiful way that we're able to connect to this inner reservoir of peace and of wisdom and so much more. So we're breathing right now. And this is a wonderful time to give thanks to yourself for being alive and for being here in this moment. And we're breathing, and then we breathe in gratitude for breath of life. And that also takes significance today, as Amma will talk about. The air quality has obviously diminished. And so we are grateful for the gift of breath, even in times such as this. And I want you to imagine, with your eyes still closed, that you're breathing in everything that is nourishing for you, everything that reminds you that your name is peace, that your name is grace and power and love and light. We breathe all of that in. We breathe in the compassion and the gentleness. And we intentionally exhale and let go of the tension, the fear that tries to make us forget who we are. We let go of the excess that's no longer needed. We let go of the old voices and the old constructs. And we're going to take one nice 5-5-5 breath. And all that means is we're going to do a deep inhale for 5. We're going to hold it for 5 and slowly exhale for 5. And if your count is different, it's all okay. So let's take a nice deep inhale now for 5. And we hold it. And slowly let go. And whenever you're ready, if your eyes are closed, you can reopen your eyes and come back. And I always say breath is so delicious. We could just stay there. We're not going to stay there, though. I'm going to jump right in because time is precious, and clearly we know that with all that's going on. And I want you to, in your own words, this amazing woman who's walked many paths, who's had years leading a team in a government position. She's fabulous with numbers. She's able to do bookkeeping. She has a nonprofit. She leads a community of clergy, of which I am one, and we're all so unique. None of us are copycats. I am probably on one end of the spectrum, and we have clergy on a whole nother end, and there's room for all of us because her message is always of love. And so I just want to give you an opportunity to share in your heart with all that is happening. What is it in this moment that you want to make sure that we hear and that is coming up for you as we talk about what life is teaching us?
Well, thank you, Mashonda. That's a powerful question. And I feel that's the question of life. What you've asked me is what I desire for every person to ask themselves every day, every moment. What is this about? Why am I here? Uh, what purpose do I have? I just completed writing an article, and the title was "Faith Works for Me," and it was basically saying that I could not imagine my life without having faith in it. It's not what am I bringing for you? Like, I have some faith for you. It's what ignites me to get up in the morning. Um, the relationship is not, uh, does someone else believe it? It's more, do I have a courage to live what I believe, what I know to exist for myself? And faith for me is hope, it's love, it's despite everything, things can be better. That my glass is half full. Uh, some people will call that a vice. Some people could call it a virtue, but but I desire that everyone understands how important every day of their journey is,
Yes.
and that they feel every moment with purpose, whether it's purposeful thought, purposeful actions, purpose. Just make sure that you're not squandering it, because as you live it, whether it's short or long, you'll be able to reflect on its value based on how much value you put on each moment of life.
It's so beautiful. And so you and I have had these discussions. For all of you listening in, this is a 25-year relationship you're hearing right now. And it has looked
Right.
so different across these 25 years. And we've really hit this stride of going deeper and saying, there are so many, opportunities where there have been detours. I'm going to tell this quick story because I love to tell it. And this is what she's like, which one? Because you have so many. But
That's
there's
right.
one that I talk about with how many of you have ever heard of the restaurant, or of the restaurant, or have you been to the restaurant Papado? And so whenever I think about Papados right now, I think about a time when I sat with her and my sister Ramika. And we want to send lots of energy to Ramika right now because, the fires have hit very um, up close and personal in a way that we couldn't have imagined. Thankfully, she is physically okay. The rest we're sending so much peace and grace to. Well, we wind the tape, and this had to have been like, I don't know, at least maybe on the like 15 years ago, I want to say 20 years ago. And I just knew that I knew where I was supposed to be in my life. Like I knew that, okay, I'm in this community, I'm ministering, I'm doing the things that I'm told to do every day. And Cheryl and Ramika looked at me, Amma and Ramika looked at me, and they're like, well, what else do you want to do with these gifts in you? Like you have these other gifts. I'm like, what do you mean? What else do I want to do? I'm like, I'm already doing my thing. Like I'm doing this. I'm leading this group. I'm leading this. I'm, organizing this. I'm here for the people here. And they asked one more time, well, what is it that you have these other skills? You used to be a news anchor, you are a wife and a mother, you volunteer, you have a degree in broadcasting, and like what? And I was like, what do you mean, what else do I want to do? Like I've landed, I'm on the mountain, I'm at the top of anything I can imagine, and like what else are you trying to say to me?
Mm-hmm.
And so subtly, you and Ramika just shifted gears. There was no judgment. There was no criticism. You just shifted gears and we started talking about something else. However, that moment, if you're listening to me, it was not lost on me. Some of you know what I'm talking about, where there's a moment where you catch a little glimpse of something. And I caught a glimpse that the two of them could see something beyond what I could see in myself.
Right.
And we laugh about that years later because I was so trying to hold on to something. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm tied to a title of what priest means in this, in this dimension.
Right.
And oh my gosh, 20 years later, look what it means. It looks like nothing what I could have imagined then. Like I'm no longer in, the everyday, formal, very structured setting, and to find a space to remind people of their light. And it was not an easy path. And you've been there through that. But I just talk about like how you were able to encourage and see a glimpse that there was more without pushing it on and without criticizing or making me feel small. And yet it was slight enough that I caught it and it made me curious to say they see something I don't. And that curiosity led to eventually an avalanche of me discovering there's more starting within me.
Absolutely. That's every time you tell that story, it makes me feel warm on the inside. The short answer is this. I think when I was learning coaching and I'm learning various things, they talk about a point of pain or a point of
Yes.
crisis. And most of us, um, when we get to that point, I was talking to my daughter about it today, just acknowledging there's a hole here. That, there's a series of things that have injured my spirit. They've wounded me. It takes a moment to grow into acknowledging there's a wound here. When you learn the salve, because these wounds are not band-aids, they're not external, they're internal. When you
Yes.
learn the salve that makes you whole, that takes the pain away, that allows you to work on the restoration without always reliving the pain, you've learned something to give. so it was easy for us to share it because we weren't sharing what's wrong with you. We were sharing, we've been there, and this is how we healed ourselves in our journey.
Yeah.
The wound came because I silenced the divine voice speaking to me. And because I silenced it, the voice within me says, I'm not going to be quiet. I mean, you can stop listening, but I'm going to speak louder. And what I was silencing was, this is not how I'm supposed to serve. This is
Mm-hmm.
not how I'm supposed to give. I was silencing that because someone was telling me, this is how you serve. This is how you give. So as I'm trying to fit my round peg in this square hole, I was not only injuring myself, I was injuring others. But I didn't know. I
Come on.
didn't know that there was a round spot for me. I didn't know.
Yes. Yes.
Luckily, I was blessed. I was fortunate to be in an environment where I could acknowledge I'm out of place. How did I get in place? And it began to emerge that it's nothing wrong with the square. He wasn't
Come
calling me
on.
to create the church of the circles. He was saying you're a circle. You need to find out where your tribe is, where your group is. Don't don't preach against squares. Find your home. And in doing that, I found that a term I did not know called mysticism, uh, that there were Christians who approached their faith through spirituality, through contemplation, and then stepped into traditions and practices as opposed to stepping into traditions and then apprehending spirituality. And I began to study it. And so I can talk about it now, but at that time, it wasn't
Yeah.
that intellectual. At that time, it was just, um, I need you to be free. And in being free, that you freed me because I became a bishop. And because of that, I had a spot, I had a place where we could determine where is it that you need to be and to give you
That's
that
so
space.
beautiful. I mean, it's so beautiful. I think about that so often because, our family has, and yours too, I know because I know you,
Yes, sir.
friends of all different backgrounds and belief systems. And that's why I talk, even as a coach, I'll say, it doesn't matter the name and the terminology that you're using. I don't really care what the tradition is that you've come through. We're grateful for the traditions, but I'm not going to say that the tradition is the answer. Like that's a car on the highway. We're all on a journey. Some of us are on highway, some of us are on, dirt paths. Some of us are on rocky, roads, literally, and, climbing through mountains and floodwaters and everything you can imagine. And it doesn't matter if you're in a boat, on roller skates, in a car, like those things are the vehicle. And there are countless vehicles. There are countless ways for us to find this truth that's within us. That's really what mysticism is. It's like really connecting with
Absolutely.
the truth that's
Absolutely.
in us. And I'm curious, looking at where you are now, could you have imagined it
Oh, wow.
20
That's
years
a good.
ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, to be in a space where you're so
Yeah.
able to relate to people of all backgrounds without saying that one is better than the other?
I would, that's a very good question, too. I would say that it was in me because I've always been a seeker and
Yeah.
um, I've always asked God to show me who you are. And I started out in nature. I started out wanting to be a ranger in the Sierra Mountains. It was I was drawn to hiking and being outside of the city. That's really where some of this started, and I became kind of like a naturist in enjoying that. And then from there, I just kind of that was where I talked to God in a different way, and it just kind of expanded into text, expanded into reading. It expanded into different types of faith. I am a inner Christian. I wouldn't call myself like a comparative religious person, even though my yoga teacher was a Buddhist. I we shared so many common discussions and so many common
Yes.
meditative practices and music that we loved, that it just kind of expanded me. But to answer your question, I would say from the way I was raised, no, but from within me,
Yeah.
absolutely, because it feels like
Yes.
home. It's
Yes.
and I say to everyone, it's not for everyone, but it is who I am, and it allows me to expand into areas where people are there that want to meet Christ in that space. It does not mean it oftentimes the compare we are not I don't compare myself. Let me just say not we. I don't. So I enjoy worshiping all over. I was
And let
raised.
me just interject. When she says all over, she literally is invited everywhere.
Oh
Now,
my gosh,
the
yeah.
places that you're invited, they wouldn't want me to come in and talk about like what I believe. But I love that they trust you and you build
Yeah,
a trust because of the love,
yes.
because it's really not about um, yes, in certain environments, in certain ecosystems, there's a language, there's a knowing, there's a practice, there's a belief. And so I call that like the little b beliefs, right? We
Yes.
make those major, especially here in the US. Like, what do you believe? Like, there are thousands upon thousands of like, descriptions of what people believe. But then the capital B belief, which you started with, like, you wrote about, like, what does it mean to have that hope that's within you? What does it mean to find solace, trust, faith when things are unknown? That's
Yeah,
universal. It doesn't
it
matter
is.
where you go, it doesn't matter what you
That's right.
practice, what you label it as. We all know what it's like to be in that dark place and not
Yes.
have an answer, to feel like I
Yes.
can't go on and no one understands me articulating how uncomfortable it is.
The yes, and it's not. I come from a structured background, and I can function there. What I love about being able to add on top of that, the exploration of the spirit, is that everyone believes in prayer. And so when we add contemplation, it is the emptying, as opposed to, in prayer, I get my basket and I have all the things I want to raise and lift in prayer. In meditation, it's the emptying. It is the eliminating of all of these things. Like you said today when we were breathing, you can't meditate without breathing. So it begins to synchronize me with, I want to be empty. I don't want my thoughts to ring. I don't want anything. I want to be an empty vessel so that you can then fill me. So that's why I enjoy them together, because when people understand it differently, I feel sometimes an individual who's monolingual tries to explain something to someone who's bilingual. The terms, we all know it's an apple, but we approach it. Nuance is spirituality. It's not rigid. The creation, we're taught in the scriptures, it doesn't have corners. So it we don't understand where one component of it begins and another ends. That's why for us, when we say all, what we're saying is, I'm gonna bleed into you. I'm gonna, like a painting bleeds into, like the earth bleeds into molecules, and the universe bleeds into space. And you go, when you think the earth is solid until you exit it and you see it there, but it's not solid. So that's spirituality. All of these elements um, let us know that the Father, who, that's my definitions, that's where I live, God, he's not out there like a corner. He's the same way as the earth is to the sky is
Yeah.
to the space is to the universe. I see him in different dimensions. I would never call the earth sky. I would never call the space clouds. And that's how the Father is. He is like a mountain, but he's not a mountain. And then when I look at you, I see his creation. I see myself in you, but I'm not you. And yet we're all made and components of him. That's what the scripture tells us, that it is
Yes.
in him we live, we move, we exist, not because in. We are a
Yeah.
component. So that's what, when I'm allowed to be in that mystical realm, that's what we encourage, because to me that's the socket.
Yes.
All humanity needs to plug into that socket, that circuitry. And however we practice after that, it's fine. But the circuitry of knowing I'm not independent from you, even though we're not in the same space, even though we're not in the same place, we're not we're not independent, distinct, separate, alone.
Yeah.
We're connected.
Yeah.
That's why the world is watching my city burn down. That's why we watched Florida as it was just leveled through. Why do we watch? Because something in us connects. We see ourselves. That could be my house. That could be my child. That's why
Yes.
we connect on that human level. And it is we're fighting foes who want us to see ourselves as different, and therein lies the spiritual warfare that we have to overcome, and that is, we're not we're not different.
I agree. And so when we talk about finding our voice and our truth and our power, I immediately go to something that I said last week about, like, who am I really is connected to why am I really? And ultimately the answer is the same. Like, I'm love and light. Why? I'm here to be love and light, to help all of us see, and those who are connected to me, that that is your name as well, love and light. And the more that we live in this love and light, the more that we live in the compassion and the kindness, and we let go of, arguing over the semantics, when we let go of, all of, and you and I have talked about this, like, wow, when we let go of the trivial things that have become so magnified, especially in something like religion or politics, that have caused people to kill one another over those
Absolutely.
little semantics, because we
Yes.
forgot the mysticism, we forgot the
Yes.
love, we
Yes.
forgot the compassion, we
Yes.
majored on the minors, and we forgot it's so simple. It doesn't matter what you call it. So whether you understand and use the language of Father or God or universe or light or source, or you don't have a word, you just know it within you, it's all the same connection, and we can boil that all the way back down to a root called love that connects us all in a way that our minds could never comprehend. And for me, finding that was a stripping of all this attachment I had to structure. And so, what was it like for you finding out that those other
For me,
voices don't define it? Yeah.
that's true. I mean, that's why I love you, and I love all of my community, so I don't want them to think I'm being, you're all my favorite. For me, it connected me. It's a conduit.
Yeah.
So uh in the Orthodox Church, we have a a table, we have elements that we use. The liturgy is communion, that, probably, to what I was raised to Pentecostal, so it's communion to the thousandth power. Like, the whole day is to get the table ready, and then that's it. You squeeze a little bit of teaching in there, which would be like 15 minutes, but in reality the whole process is the table. The the mysticism and the table go together for me, because um, there's so much mystery in understanding the table of the Lord. However, there's there's mystery hidden in a lot of places. And that's the joy that I have when I'm able to talk to people, regardless of which of the seven churches they're a member of. There's great mystery in our faith. Christ is just bigger. He's everything we believe, but he's bigger than that. So for me, it allowed me to somewhat meet him without structuring the meeting. He
Okay.
gives me the opportunity to just rest in him, and I do that.
And I want to interject here because I can feel, and I have friends who can understand everything that you're saying, and they're so tied to their community, whether it has
Oh
an
yeah.
altar or a table or a communion. And then I have friends and people I love dearly who have been so hurt
Hmm.
by the rigidity, the judgment, the hypocrisy. Um, that's enough right there. The abuse that has also happened. And so
Absolutely.
my
Yes.
my hope for all of us is to say that whether or not you're able to step into a pathway, which I would really call a car, a vehicle, a boat, some roller skates, whatever it is where you're able to connect. And for those of people who have like, I've been so hurt, like I've been in, you know, a 20 car pileup, and there's no way I'm going to get into that car again.
Absolutely. Well, I think what I say is this. It's an it's an allness, not a oneness and a one-wayness. It's an
Yes.
allness. And I I don't feel that God is saying, wait a minute, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like I'm not gonna be there. He's he I use those pronouns for him. It's not, he knows exactly who he is. I'm the one that needs to find out who I am.
Yes.
He knows exact, so he's not that's not compromising to him. It might be
Yeah.
compromising to my colleagues, but it's not compromising to him.
That's so powerful to hear
He's
you say
love.
that.
It's
Yes,
He's
that it's
love.
love. At
At
the
his
end of the day,
basic
it's love.
nature, he's love. That's what we're told. God is love.
And so, why have
And
we drifted so far away from that? Why is there so much
that's a
heartache and hurt?
yes,
And
yes,
why is it that
yes.
so many are still in that spin cycle of where is my own voice? Where is my own power? Where is my own truth? Because someone laid it out for me and I ordered that and I took that in off the menu and I believed it. And then all of a sudden, I'm so sick from it. I've become so ill from it because of the hurt and the damage and all of those things that also are a part of it, right? How do we come back and help people see? How did you see? How do so many of us eventually find my way back to me, my way back home here?
Yeah. Well, that's the answer. I mean, I know you posed it as a question, but that's the answer. The and it's longer than I can answer, and it's more complicated than I can answer as to why we have certain uh, traditions, certain structures, certain I mean, there's a history that puts that in context, and that history is like looking at the mountain, and there's a whole lifetime you can learn about how did this mountain get here. But in order to do it, you can believe it by faith, or if you're a scientist, we can talk about the various types of geological things that occur in order for mountains to elevate, from where they are, tectonics. We can talk about all that stuff. That also will tell you why that mountain is there. They all work together. It's like science. If you don't believe in science, is breadcrumbs. God lets you find him through breadcrumbs called science. But if you don't believe in science, that's okay. You can just believe things exist without it. But there's a breadcrumb that you're going to end up in the same place. Someone will be able to explain to you the astrophysics of the universe. And if you want to believe it's just there because God created it, all that works. But they work together. They're not enemies. We're all trying to reach the same all
Yes.
truth, that the paraclete gives us the ability to have a little extra understanding of the creator, That's what spirituality, I believe, does, because we're spiritual beings. If we believe our Father is spiritual, then at our core, we're spiritual beings. That's what I bring to this discussion. We don't, that doesn't mean I have to be spiritual. It doesn't mean I have to go to church. It doesn't mean I have to believe in anything. It's just my origin, because my creator is the creator and my creator's spirit. Then naturally I'm going to attribute all of that he creates to have a spiritual center. And that's where I believe we can meet. So on our way to meeting, the whole point is to meet the creator. The whole point is to meet
Yes.
him. So it's not, it's, if you meet him in a service at an with no table, where you have communion, once a year, then be faithful to that and find the Christ in you and how he wants you to show that love and light to the world. If you meet him, as a naturalist in nature through meditation, and we're going to find the same spot, then
Yes.
meet him there. I don't feel we're competing. I do feel there are enlightenments that come when we bring all of our truths together, because, as I said, my construct is the paraclete, or that spirit within us, leads us and guides us into all truth, which means as we draw together, his identity and the truth emerges. One doesn't have it all, but all of us have it all. So that's why we have to be together. That's why we have to share and have brotherhood and not be afraid. Yeah, some of my colleagues are going to call me after today and say, "What are you talking about?" And
Well,
that's fine.
and
That's
that's
fine.
okay, because questions
That's
are
fine.
powerful. I'm looking at our
Yes.
time and we could keep going. I want to give you a chance to say, like, what is the one word that you would hope that, as we're watching fires go on behind you, um, as we're each in our own spaces going through something that sometimes we can't understand and we want to give up, and we think that maybe I won't be able to keep going? What is it that you would be the word or the phrase that you would want us to remember as we're on this journey, still learning as we go?
Gratitude.
Okay.
And I'll shortly say it this way. I believe we're co-creators. And so that means the ingredient, like salt, that we have to add to everything despite everything, is gratitude. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's a cup, sometimes it's a pinch, because the situation is so dire, you can only get a pinch. But as long as we're able to have gratitude, what will emerge out of it will be something that will be ultimately a delight, or something that will educate us, or something that we will transcend. If we pinch negative, meaning hate or evil or disdain or frustration, then we have no ability to extract out of that and create something that will be nurturing, and love can't come out of it. So as long as we have a pinch of gratitude left, we love can emerge out of even the worst tragedy, and
I love that.
we can be recreated into something better.
I love that. Um, I want us to all sit and let that gratitude flow within us. I am grateful today to have time and space with you. A short little quote that I'm going to say is this, and it was something I shared with my girlfriend on her birthday. Let this wash over you, let it fill you, and then ask yourself, how can the ocean feel the waves? How can it recognize the water? How can it measure its depth? How can it touch its wetness? It is. So are you. So are we. So is all. So with that, I'm going to say thank you to you, Amma Naomi, for being here. Thank you to all of you who tuned in and gave time and space and listened. And thank you most of all for being who you are, which is a beautiful soul. Thank you, beautiful soul, for remembering who we are and for making time and space to be with us today. As you go forward on your journey to the known and unknown places, continue to listen to your inner heart and honor your soul, because your answers are always within you. Please consider supporting us in spreading more light and love with this message by simply liking the video below, subscribing, and consider sharing as well. Most of all, take gentle care and breathe. We see you. We thank you. Beautiful soul.